Okay, hi everybody. Let me just double check that I'm live. Should be, but always good to check, I think. Yep, okay, says I'm live, all good. Hi. Hello, everybody. If you don't know me that well, my name is Megan. I am autistic and ADHD. I'm also a life coach for autistic, ADHD, auDHD, or neurocurious folks who know that something is going on in their brain, but they aren't super confident on what that is. Because I am not a therapist or a doctor, I can't diagnose anything, but what I can do is help you with some of the traits that go along with being autistic, ADHD, or, neurodivergent in some other ways. For example, I really love helping people with executive dysfunction, emotional dysregulation, and internalized shame. Those are areas that I think I really shine as a coach. But I also help people with, relationships, time management, productivity, things like that. So that's a little bit about me. I'm 30. I have 3 kiddos, including a set of twins. They're 10 months old. It's crazy. They're getting so big. I'm married to my best friend in the whole world, my husband. We've been married for 7 years now. We actually just had our anniversary pretty recently. So that's been lovely and wonderful. So I don't know, that's a little bit about me. Tell me about you in the comments. I'm super happy to hear about you and who you are. Today, I posted a poll to see what you guys wanted to chat about. And overwhelmingly, people wanted to talk about the differences between solely being autistic, solely being ADHD, or being both, and like how the 3 differ. And full disclosure, I guess, I am ADHD. I'm autistic and ADHD. So that's the lived experience that I can speak to the most clearly, is what it's like to be both. When it comes to what it's like to solely be autistic or to solely be ADHD, I am going off of people that I know, but even that can be a little murky because, for example, one of the biggest ADHD creators on the internet, Katie Osaurus, actually recently talked online about finding out that they are also autistic. So even people who think or thought that they might solely be one or the other sometimes find out later that they're both. And so it can be tricky. It can be tricky to sift out what is what. But I can talk about some of the diagnostic criteria for each one and how they might look different when you have both. I can talk about really anything you guys are curious about. So why don't we take a minute for everybody to drop a question in the chat? So if you're watching right now and you're wanting to know something, let me know what you want to know so that I know what to focus on. That would make my life a million times easier. It makes going live a lot easier when I've got comments and questions and things to address. I'm much better at responding than I am with like coming up with stuff on the fly. I think that's an ADHD thing, or an autism thing, or an ADHD thing, frankly. The not being able to come up with stuff on the fly is kind of autistic, but then when someone gives me a prompt, it just like sparks all these things. That feels very ADHD. So if you could leave your questions, comments, anything you want to know in the chat, that would make my life so much easier. Oh, hey, Momcraft. Got diagnosed with ADHD at 45 in May. I also have 3 high-energy, precocious boys. Loving your content. Oh, that's amazing. Hello. I'm so glad that you got a diagnosis that makes sense for you. I'm so glad that you have 3 wonderful kiddos, just like me. I have 2 girls and a boy. Obviously, for now, who knows? Gender is often very fluid, especially if you have toddlers. Anybody else have a toddler who, I have a theory that all toddlers are gender fluid because it just kind of depends on the day. Although as my kiddo gets older, he's not really a toddler anymore. He's getting older and he seems more cemented into how he feels, at least for now. But anyway, question, what is the difference? Oh, it looks like that got submitted a little early. It's okay. I'll let you finish typing. So autism, ADHD, auDHD. Let's talk about it. So autism and ADHD are both neurodevelopmental disabilities, which basically means that it affects the way your brain develops and often results in disability, which is, when you struggle to do things a certain way or struggle to do things at all, potentially. And autism and ADHD are really different, but can go hand in hand very often. Actually, until 2013, you were not allowed to be diagnosed with both. physicians were required to choose which one best fit you, because it was believed that you couldn't have both because they can appear so opposite, right? So that was up until 2013. That's very recent, right? So there's a lot of adults who may have been diagnosed as one or the other who actually are both, but didn't know, because when they were diagnosed as kids, like, it wasn't allowed that you would be diagnosed with both. So that's a whole thing. They're both neurodevelopmental disabilities. They can affect how your brain develops, the speed it develops, the like way it develops, and all of this other stuff. I had a thought and I was going to share it and I lost it. Shoot. This is ADHD. This happens. Oh well, we'll come back to it if it comes back around. But so up until 2013, you couldn't be diagnosed with both. But now you can. That's what I was going to share, the statistics. So, oh, shoot, I lost my nose ring. Where did it go? I'm sorry, hold on. Pause, everybody pause. My nose ring fell. Did it fall in my shirt? Nose ring. It's like my favorite. It's fake. That's why it can like fall right out of my nose, because it's not an actual piercing. Oh, it did fall in my shirt. Okay, found it. Sorry, guys. That's embarrassing. I just went to scratch my nose because my nose gets itchy when I go live. Don't ask me why. It's like a weird psychosomatic thing. And I knocked my nose ring right out. Anyway, okay, hi. Now it feels funny. Okay. So what I was going to share is the statistics on what we know about being both autistic and ADHD now. So 2013 was the first year you were allowed to be diagnosed with both, so it's been about 11 years. And studies are showing that approximately 60% of ADHDers are also autistic, and approximately 80% of autistic folks are also ADHD. That is huge. Huge, you guys. Like, holy crap, that's almost all of autistic folks are also ADHD. That's bananas. There's only like 20% of us who aren't ADHD. Like, really? So again, those numbers may be a little off. It's only been about 10 or 11 years. So take it with a grain of salt, but just so you know, it's very common for them to go hand in hand, is basically what I'm saying. And the reason those numbers are off, sometimes people are like, but those numbers shouldn't be different. It's because there are more people diagnosed with ADHD than people diagnosed with autism, which means there are some, does that make sense? Like why those would be different? So anyway, so Momcraft, your question got cut off. All I see here is what is the difference between, and then it gets cut off. So let me know what the rest of that question was, because I don't have the rest of it. Potato Dark, great name, by the way. I have a lot of confusion. I got the dual diagnosis and can never tell what is causing what. I watch so much content, both ADHD and autism, and things I thought belonged to one seem to be experienced by the other. Yes. So there's a lot of confusion in the community about which traits go with which condition. And part of that comes from some like content creators thinking that they only have one when they really have both. And so they're like, oh, this is like a weird ADHD trait, but it's really an autistic trait, and vice versa. So some of that confusion comes from that, but it can also come from the fact that I lost my train of thought. Hold on. So somebody on TikTok that I used to follow made this really great like concept. As far as I know, they're the first one to really explain this. And that's the idea of like core traits versus associated traits. So a lot of core traits of ADHD, like executive dysfunction, can be an associated trait of autism. But so if we're going to define it this way, the core traits of autism would be like social differences, sensory differences, and like routine and rigidity differences, right? Those are some of the core aspects of autism. But then we have like associated aspects of autism, which can include emotional dysregulation, executive dysfunction, dissociation, trauma, stuff like that. ADHD, if we're looking at the core things, is executive dysfunction, attention differences, and like hyperactivity differences in folks with combined or hyperactive type of ADHD. There's also an inattentive type who would not necessarily have that same hyperactivity in the same way. So those are the core things, whereas the associated things might be emotional dysregulation, social difficulties that come from not paying attention in the way that other people do, sensory differences that, again, can come from attentional differences and stuff like that, but those are associated. Does that make sense? So, like, they all kind of flow together. Oops, sorry. Just hopped on. This last year, figured out I was ADHD. What's been weird is it wasn't until I took my ADHD med that it revealed my autism. It's like it's layered. Yes. So a lot of people do notice this, that their ADHD can mask their autism, can hide it in a lot of ways. I think mine did that for a long time. I was they both hid each other. They would like take turns. Sometimes I was the class clown. I was hilarious. I was like totally using humor and performance to cover up my social difficulties. But then other times my social difficulties would cover up my impulsivity. Like I would be so afraid of behaving incorrectly that I wouldn't be as impulsive as my body wanted me to be, you know? So they would like cover each other. And a lot of people do notice that when they start ADHD medication, that their autism becomes much more apparent as their ADHD becomes less and less of like a disruptor in their lives. Let's see. Okay, the rest of my question was, what is the difference between the three? Yeah, I'm also curious if you have ever heard of the hunter brain type theory that Tom Hartman proposed. I want to read that book, but I haven't yet, so I can't speak to that. But yeah, the main difference between autism, ADHD, and AUDHD. Autism, again, I think it comes back to like the core versus associated features. But I think the main thing is that autism tends to be more of it's not, how do I describe this? So something I want to say about all three real quick before we talk about the differences is that they are not behavioral disorders. A lot of people treat ADHD especially like a behavioral disorder, and it's not. It's a neurodevelopmental disability, which means it affects the way your brain develops, which means it affects the way you experience input as well as the behavior you output. This is something that's going to be in my book that's coming out in 2025, most likely, potentially 2026, hopefully 2025. I'm working with a publisher and everything. It's going to be very exciting. I'm trying to finish the book. But a huge thing that I address is that ADHD and autism both affect input just as much as they affect behavioral output. They are not behavioral disorders or conditions. They are neurodevelopmental. Not that there's anything wrong with behavioral conditions, but they are different, right? So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's like I have to predict what my sensory triggers will be each hour. Yeah, that can be a huge thing. You have to try to predict everything, and it's really hard to do when you don't know which one's going to have the reins, the ADHD or the autism, and that can be really tricky. So the difference between autism and ADHD is pretty stark, but the difference between autism and ADHD or ADHD and ADHD are a little less clear. So autism tends to be associated with very rigid thinking and rigidity in routines and patterns, repetitive behaviors and repetitive thoughts sometimes can lead to a lot of rumination, which is why some autistic folks are misdiagnosed with OCD, although some autistic folks also have OCD, and that's totally valid as well. So autism, because we also tend to miss social cues, and we don't know that we're missing social cues a lot of the time. Sometimes we do, but a lot of times we don't. Like, for instance, I vividly remember my husband and I had been married for a little while, but it was during the pandemic, and I didn't usually take phone calls in front of my husband, but then we were stuck at home, and if I wanted to talk on the phone, I had to talk on the phone in front of him, so I did. And I got off the phone, and he was like, "So if your family doesn't believe that you're autistic, do they just think you're an asshole?" And I was like, "What do you mean by that? Like, what does that mean?" And he's like, "I understand why you are the way you are on the phone, but like, it can come off pretty rude." And I was like, "What are you talking about? That was a totally normal conversation." He's like, "Megan, did you not notice like the long, awkward silences on that phone call?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's just part of talking on the phone. No one knows when to talk on the phone." And he's like, "Yeah, they do. Most people know when to talk on the phone." And I'm like, "Well, then why aren't they talking?" And he's like, "Well, because autism is genetic, probably." And I'm like, "Fair enough." But besides that, like, I am bad at asking questions. I'm really bad at asking questions, especially on the phone. It's something I have to make a very concentrated effort to do. And it's tricky. So anyway, there are social cues we miss, and we don't realize we're missing them. What else? Autism also comes with a very specific sensory profile. Some people are hypersensitive, some are hyposensitive, some are a mix. Most of us are a mix, and it can differ based on context. But yeah, that's kind of autism in a very brief nutshell. Then you have ADHD, which is primarily defined by executive dysfunction. There are 8 types of executive functioning. Let me see if I can remember them. They are impulse control, emotional regulation, flexible thinking, self-monitoring, organization, prioritization, task initiation, and there's an 8th one. There's an 8th one, but I can't remember it. But those are some of the executive functions. ADHDers tend to struggle with all of these. All of these, okay? We don't, even though it's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, we don't just have a deficit of attention. Sometimes we have an overabundance of attention. What we really have issues with is regulating our attention. So sometimes we have a deficit, sometimes we have too much. And we just have a hard time regulating how we pay attention to things and whether we pay attention to things. And so it's kind of like not having a filter for any of the input coming in. So, or sometimes we have a brick wall and none of it gets in. So it can be a whole mix. ADHD is complicated, and it's going to look different for everybody. Because autism can look different for everybody, ADHD looks different for everybody, and then when you combine them, it gets even more specific and can look super different. But a lot of things people notice and report is that people call you a space cadet, and like you tend to miss a lot of really obvious important things, but you also pick up on a lot of stuff that other people miss. So like that's a big thing that a lot of ADHDers report. A lot of ADHDers report very inconsistent energy and very inconsistent sleep. A lot of us talk about executive dysfunction because it can be a part of both conditions, and emotional dysregulation can be part of both conditions. So that's a big part of it. And sensory stuff and social stuff can be huge parts of both for sure. And they can play off of each other in weird ways. So let me go back to the questions. Hi all, I'm in NL. I'm not sure what NL is. Is that a country, a state, a place? I don't know where that is. Let me know where you are. I found the Neurocuriosity Club very helpful. I'm so glad. Snickety, that's awesome. I like what you said about content creators, when they might not know they are both, exactly. And a lot of people don't, and that's fine. It's not like they're being malicious and spreading misinformation or whatever. They're just sharing their experience, and as far as they know, they're only autistic. So they attribute these things to autism, which makes sense, of course, but sometimes there's more going on. Yeah. My GF, who I live with and who has ADHD, we've gotten to where we just announce to each other the mood we're in. Like she'll tell me she needs alone time, or if the audio is triggering her, I put earbuds in and let her control the audio. Yeah, without taking any of it personal. Netherlands. Thank you, Snickety. Hi. Sorry about that. I was like, NL, not New Zealand, not North Dakota. So sorry. Anyway. Glad you're here. But no, Yingvar, that's great. Like not taking sensory needs and stuff like that personal and just realizing it's just a basic need, like, hey, I'm hungry, is great. Like someone being hungry doesn't mean anything about you. Just like I need the volume lower is not about you. It's not personal. So I think that's brilliant. Hi, what is the link between autism and depression? Blossom Photography, let's talk about it. Okay, so there may be a genetic or chemical connection between the two. I'm not here to speak on that because I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm not a researcher, so I can't go there, and I haven't done a lot of research on the chemical part of potential connections. What I can talk about is that oftentimes autism can lead to depression in some ways. So being autistic can cause depression, not because autism causes depression, but because our society's way of not accepting autistic people can lead to depression. That's really usually the issue. Although sometimes autistic traits by themselves, even in a perfect, welcoming, loving society, could still make us a little depressed. For example, meltdowns. Meltdowns are really, really hard to manage and can feel really crappy and could make us feel depressed potentially. So I have major depressive disorder. I personally don't think that my major depression is only tied to my autism. Like, I don't think it's just a reaction of like not being accepted. I think that's more of a trauma thing. I think I also just have major depression. Like, I think even if I wasn't autistic, I would have major depression, major depressive disorder. But not everybody's like that. Some people, it's the fact that their autism has been ignored and dismissed and invalidated, and they've been made to feel like they're less than their whole lives. That leads to depression for sure. And if that's you, that's totally valid too and okay. Your depression is just as real as mine, and mine is just as real as yours. We just have different causes. Mine tends to be pretty chemical. It just kind of seems to be the way, my brain works. So yeah, that's kind of the connection I want to talk about there. I forget the actor's name, but there's a British actor with bipolar who's used the example of when it's triggered, it's like it's raining out. It's just raining, whether you say so or not. This helped me explain my depression and other issues with my parents. Yes, it's raining. You can argue with the rain if you like, but it is raining. And people can say, well, there's no reason for it to be raining. And it's like, yeah, rain doesn't need a reason. It just rains sometimes. And that's a really great way of putting it. I really like that, actually. That's very helpful. P.S. Just woke up for the rough grammar. You're fine. Your grammar's fine. No big deal. Not a big deal at all. So yeah, autism and ADHD can combine in some really interesting ways. I think sometimes it makes our social issues better, but sometimes it makes it worse. So like I said, for me, my ADHD often covers up my social issues. So like I am really good at performing. I'm really good at being class clown. I'm good at doing lives like this. I'm good at this stuff because ADHD, my brain is constantly, you could talk about this, you could talk about this, you should talk about that. Let's make this connection. It'll be a funny joke. Like, my brain's always doing that, and so that's helpful. And it hides the fact that I don't actually know what's going on a lot of the time. Like, I don't know what's happening. And I think I actually have something coming out next week. Put surprise in the chat, just the word surprise in the chat if you want to know something about next week that I haven't told anybody on the internet yet. But you guys get to know because you're here live and I think you're cool. Let me know if you want to know. Anyway, I have something coming out soon that's going to be pretty exciting, where I talk a little bit about autistic theater kids and how a lot of media likes to portray autistic folks as science and math nerds, which is fine, by the way, totally valid, and a lot of us are. But I think a lot of autistic folks are also theater nerds because theater is great. It's literally scripted. Everything you say is scripted. There's a choreographer who tells you exactly like what the fuck to do with your hands for once in your life. And like, I just think a lot of us are theater kids because performance, a lot of autistic people feel like they're performing anyway. You might as well like get applause for it. You know what I mean? So anyway, where was I even going with that? Oh, how they mask each other. So sometimes the ADHD masks the autism. Sometimes the autism masks the ADHD. Being ADHD is tricky, and it often looks on the outside like you have neither when really you have both. Or that was my experience. Or sometimes I know of some people who their autism and ADHD combined to make them like life was just really difficult and tricky and they couldn't hide either one. And instead people thought they were being like difficult on purpose. And that led to them being labeled as like a problem child or disruptive or whatever. And that is really shitty too. It's just shitty in a different way. Oh my goodness. Everybody's saying surprise. Okay, cool. I was in an improv troupe. Oh, Yingvar, that's great. Did play acting and directing. That's great. I have ADHD, autism, and OCD and have been a scenic artist on Broadway for 27 years. Yeah. Oh, Firefly. That is cool as shit. I love that. Okay. So y'all want to know what the surprise is. So I may or may not have teamed up with some really cool autistic ADHDers, so people who are both, to create a magazine. It's going to be like 30 or 40 pages at this point. Like I'm not done editing it yet, but it's going to be a beefy boy. But But it's going to be a magazine with articles and artwork and poetry from real ADHDers conveying their experience as an ADHD person. That whole little rant I went on about theater kids, that might be in there. That may or may not be part of my article. Which, by the way, I'll just tell you the title. So my article is called Go Touch Grass: Why Autistic People Tend to Feel So at Home Online and Why Everyone Seems to Have a Problem with That. So talks a little bit about, like, you know, autistic folks getting hate online for being online and stuff like that, being ourselves. So that's kind of my article. But there's articles on being autistic and traveling. There's a really wonderful poem called Inconvenient Existence that is just going to blow your mind. And there's articles about mind mapping, monotropism. And there's submissions from some of your favorite creators, from Nate's Dreamy Life, from Jess Diverges, from Georgia Holiday. Like, and if you don't know these people, you need to go follow them. Let me drop their things. So shoot, I don't know Georgia's. Okay, I can't drop it, but don't worry. Their Instagrams will be in the magazine so that you can follow them. It's a digital magazine, by the way. It won't be physical because I don't have the money and stuff to produce like a physical magazine and ship it around the world and stuff. So it'll be digital. But something I'm really proud of is all of the articles and poems will be read out loud, and you'll be able to click a button and just listen to the article. So you can listen and read at the same time, or if you only want to listen, that's totally fine. And I'm very proud of that. I think it's a wonderful accessibility feature that we're offering. All of the artwork will have a written description as well as like a audio so that you can listen, again, for our like visually impaired folks, so that they can appreciate the artwork to, you know, in their own way. Let's see. Okay, there's a couple of other questions. Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Snickety says, neurotypical society does seem to trigger a lot of trauma in neurodivergence, which I feel causes a lot of depression. Also resonate with chemicals also affecting my depression. Yeah. Is there a good way to deal with imposter syndrome? Yeah, I say just start accommodating yourself and say like, well, if I was autistic, what would I do? If I did have ADHD, what would I do? And then just do that. And that way you're not telling yourself like, I have to be autistic in order to earn this accommodation. You can just be like, well, if I was, what would I do? How would I act? Like, what would help me? And I think that helps me a lot because it puts less pressure on it. It's like, that's why I like the word neurocurious. It's like, maybe I'm autistic, maybe I'm not, but I know that noise canceling ear headphones really help me. And so I'm going to use them. So I think that's really helpful. Does a person know they're having a meltdown? Not always. I did not realize my meltdowns were meltdowns for a long time. I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder for about 6 or 7 years, and I thought my meltdowns were mixed episodes, which is basically where you have the energy of mania, but the thoughts and feelings of depression, which is actually very dangerous. So I thought they were just really short mixed episodes, like they would last like a day. And I'm like, why? Or they would last a couple hours. And then I thought maybe I had borderline because my emotions were so fast. But then finally I realized I was autistic, and I'm like, oh, they're meltdowns. I'm having meltdowns. Got it. So yeah, sometimes you know, but sometimes you just know I feel like death and I don't know why. So, you know, that's kind of how that goes. I was recently diagnosed with autism. I hope that it's helpful for you, Blossom. I hope maybe this channel can be a source of information for you and validation. And just know that autism, I think in our society, is often portrayed as like this big, bad, scary thing. And don't get me wrong, it can be very debilitating sometimes. And it is a disability. And there are aspects that might make your life harder. But at the same time, you've always been autistic. It's not like this diagnosis is changing who you are. Right? This diagnosis is just giving you the language to describe your experiences. And I really hope that helps. And I would love to help. So, yeah. Okay. I want in. Yes. When will the article be out? Okay. The magazine is released on Monday. It's going to cost $7. That's it for, like I said, like 30 or 40 pages of content. And Should I tell you the other thing? I'm going to tell you the other thing. It's fine. It comes with a bonus, which is the ADHD slumber party. We are going to do a slumber party on Thursday, the 13th, 14th, 15th. I think the 15th of August. That Thursday next Thursday. So almost 1 week from today. We're going to do a slumber party. It's going to be at like 9 p.m. Eastern. We're all going to hop on Zoom and we're going to hang out and we're going to talk about what it's like to be autistic and ADHD. I will help facilitate conversations so you don't have to worry about the awkwardness. It's just going to be a hangout. Now, if you just want to go to the slumber party, you're like, I'm not that interested in the magazine. That's not for me, but I definitely want the community aspect. The slumber party ticket is $7 as well. So if you want to go to the slumber party and you want the magazine, the slumber party ticket comes with the magazine. So you either pay $7 for both, or you can pay $7 to just come to the slumber party if you just don't want the magazine, which is totally fine. I will have all of those links set up for you to buy very, very soon. It's not set up yet. My virtual assistant and I are working on it. I'm a little behind, if you can't tell. It's all good. I'll get it all done. I always do. But I'm very, very excited. I can't wait to do the slumber party. I can't wait to hang out with you. I can't wait for you to read the amazing articles and poetry and see the cool artwork that people put together. It's truly, truly gorgeous. And I'm working my hardest to make the magazine very aesthetically pleasing to read, but also easy to read. And I'm just very excited. I'm very excited. So that sounds pretty awesome. That's genius. Yeah, I wonder about the connection between gaming and neurodivergence, specifically Minecraft. I haven't noticed between Minecraft. I think most kiddos really love Minecraft. I think it appeals to like their kids are often in like a liminal space between creative play and like structured play, and Minecraft really combines those two. It gives them rules and a world, but it's also an open world. They can do just about anything, but also the way they can do anything is very structured, and I think that really appeals to a lot of little kids, so, and older kids as well. But yeah, I got diagnosed with ASD a year ago and ADD 30 years before, but untreated since. Totally resonate with the description of Meltdown now. Yeah. One big thing I learned, I'm good at planning and leading groups, but can't complete them myself. I realized I learned how to plan for neurotypical people and need to plan for a neurodivergent person when I do it myself. Yes. I'm kind of the opposite. I can't plan for neurotypical people. I can't do it. Like, I don't know how to describe stuff to someone whose brain doesn't work like mine. And this is where my autistic empathy differences come in. A lot of people talk about autistic folks having low empathy. Autistic folks actually have a very wide diversity of empathy. Some of us have very low empathy, very high empathy, in between. There's actually two types of empathy. Cognitive empathy, which is your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and think the way they think. And then affective or emotional empathy, which is how feeling the way someone else feels and just like feeling their emotions flood over you, right? I have very high emotional empathy, but very low cognitive empathy. I have a hard time putting myself in someone else's shoes unless I try very hard to do so. It doesn't come naturally to me. So, it makes it difficult for me to plan for people who are not ADHD, basically. Momcraft, I kind of know this one. Part of it is the controlled satisfaction and safe environment. There's more to it, but that's the basics, yeah. Slumber party, may try, can we not be on cam and text? Oh, absolutely, yes. I am always a text-based person. The chat is always open in my Zooms. Cameras can 100% be off, on, whatever works. You can come off mute. You can communicate in the chat. Whatever works for you, that is what I want you to do. A lot of autistic folks have social anxiety as well, and some ADHDers have social anxiety as well, and that's really complicated because of our impulsivity issues, and then we feel embarrassed, and it's a whole thing, and yeah, so I'm always open to however people communicate best. I'm diagnosed with ADHD and started taking medication, but I still feel too much anxiety whenever I start doing a task, so any day-to-day task also feel daunting to me. Oh, Kumar, okay. Yeah, so what I like to do when I take my medication, before I take it, I sit down and I write out a list of what needs done. I make a plan. Because if I take my meds and I don't have a plan, I'm going to end up focused on completely the wrong thing. And then I'm going to feel all this pressure to be doing something else, but I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on this. And it's like, So I actually have a little notebook. Sorry, this is the book I'm reading right now. It's Not You, It's Capitalism by Malaika Jabali. Excellent book. Totally made for ADHDers. Look, there's graphics. It's pre-highlighted. Like, look at this shit. It's awesome. So that's the book I'm reading right now. But I keep a little notepad that I got from Target on my desk. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. And not every day, but a lot of days, I just write down the date and write down what needs done. This is from yesterday. I didn't finish what needed done, so I'm just using yesterday's list. But that really helps me before I take my medication. And if I can't focus enough to make the list, I will take my meds and I will sit there with the list and wait. I just like kind of wait for it to kick in as best I can. Yeah. For me, it's Pokemon. Love Pokemon. I play Pokemon Go with my husband all the time. I actually don't love Pokemon. I don't want to lie. My husband loves Pokemon, and it makes me super happy to engage in his interests with him. And I like Pokemon. I think Pokemon is fine. But playing Pokemon Go with him and like going on walks together and catching stuff and doing challenges, and I find that very fun. So, have super empathy, just don't know that it is someone else's feelings that I'm feeling due to alexithymia. Oh, snickety, yes. Yeah, I can't tell you the number of times where I'm like, I'm so anxious, and somebody else is like, me too, and I'm like, wait, you're anxious. I just feel what you feel. I've been there. Oh my goodness. I'm a Minecrafter. Yeah, I tried doing the notepad thing, and after a couple of weeks, I forgot the notepad existed. Guess what? It worked. The notepad still worked. This is like my biggest ADHD hack that I teach as many people as I can. If something works for you for a couple of weeks and then it stops working, it was not a failure. It worked for a couple of weeks. And that's huge. Instead of dismissing it because it didn't work, till Kingdom Come, till we're 90? Like, do we really expect that? No. Sure, neurotypical people can often get like a year out of their planning system instead of a couple of weeks, but we're not neurotypical. So have different standards for yourself. If something lasts a couple weeks, you thank it, you celebrate it, and then you move on to the next strategy. And then you keep that in your back pocket as like, okay, maybe in 3 or 4 strategies, I'll be able to come back to that strategy and it'll work again because it'll be new and novel again. Does that make sense? So yeah, don't shame yourself for something not working forever. That's goofy. Nothing works forever, even for neurotypical folks. So yeah. Big advice for executive dysfunction. If you find there's a certain song, for example, that triggers your hyperfocus, with a lot of practice, you can trick your hyperfocus to be on housework using that music. This is something I've been working on myself the last year. Yes, I think so. Hold on. My nose ring is driving me bananas. I might just take it out. It's so itchy. I'm so sorry. I know that like messing with your nose is not the most attractive thing in the world, but it just gets so itchy when I go live and I don't know why. Anyway, something that I have noticed is that I need specific music for specific tasks. So like when I'm writing my book, I have a playlist called Chill Folk. I like folk music, like folky kind of music, like Noah Kahn and Zach Bryan and stuff like that. So I will listen to that when I'm writing my book. Then when I'm cleaning house, I need podcasts. I can't do music. It doesn't work. I need a podcast. I need something very intellectually stimulating. When I'm just doing regular work on like my business, answering emails and stuff, I listen to Chapel Roan almost exclusively, like Phenomenon and Pink Pony Club on repeat. Right? So that's me. But I put a calendar on the fridge. That sort of seems to help, but thankfully my husband is always reminding me of the things I am forgetting. Yeah, exactly. And don't be afraid to use your people accommodations too. That totally works. Like if having someone remind you of stuff helps, it helps. Lots of people need reminders, not just ADHDers. I think sometimes we forget that when you have ADHD, the goal is not to become superhuman. The goal is just to function as best you can. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be neurotypical. Neurotypical doesn't equal perfect, by the way. You just have to be your favorite version of yourself. I actually talk about this in a YouTube video that should be coming out on Tuesday. But I don't believe in being the best version of yourself all the time because I don't think that's possible. I believe in being your favorite version of yourself. I think that's way better, way more helpful. Let's see. The same song on repeat for hours. Heck yeah. Femininomenon. Yeah, femininomenon. Anyway, my GF and I Blair Pink Pony Club a lot of mornings. Yes, it's such a good like go song. Like yes. As an ADHDer, I've been using the Habitica Habit app to help me remember to do daily tasks, work on habits, and as a to-do list. It gamifies tasks and gives me dopamine hits. I tried Habitica. It worked for a couple of weeks, which was great, and then it stopped working, which is fine. But yeah, Habitica, highly recommend. I've also heard great things about Finch, specifically for self-care type tasks. I might try Finch because I have been trying to do more self-care recently. I've been going on hot girl walks. I've been dyeing my hair, doing my nails, and all of that good stuff. So trying to read more. Again, this is the book I'm reading right now. Highly recommend. Really like it, but I have lots of other books that need read. I have a whole stack. So anyway, and I have a stack over there too. I have stacks everywhere. I'll be sharing videos about Habitica in a few weeks. That's great. Momcraft. Everybody go subscribe to Momcraft, especially because you play Minecraft, I assume. I think that's very cool. Go check out the Habitica videos. Let's see. What else do we need to know? What else do we need to talk about? I missed the hair even as I was looking at it. Yeah, no, I know. It's like, it's one of those things. I think vivid hair colors, like unnatural vivid hair colors, are my natural hair color. Obviously it doesn't naturally grow out of my head, but I think I look most natural with vivids sometimes, which is weird and crazy. But anyway, yeah, this is my hair right now. I'm digging it. Let's see. I've been doing this thing that really helps whenever I have a doubt and I have anxiety and imposter syndrome about one condition or the other. I just jumble everything up in my mind and tell myself, stop, I have something. This is something I tell people all the time because I do think diagnosis can be very validating and very important. And it's important to know what's going on to a certain extent because like, yeah, I've had some therapists who are like, let's just treat the symptoms. Let's just treat what's going on. And I'm like, okay, if I went to the ER because I had a really high fever, yes, your first job is to bring the fever down. But your second job is to figure out what caused the fever. Was it a virus? Was it a bacteria? Do I have a broken bone somewhere that's causing a problem? Like, so yes, we need to address the symptoms, but we also need to know what the fuck is going on, right? So for me, what I like to tell people is, whatever the name is of your struggles are real and they do exist. And their realness and reality matters more than their name. I think that helps me a lot. I haven't found an app that works for me, but I do role play in my head. Like I'll do housework while imagining it's Dragon Ball Z or another anime fight to pump me up. I did this growing up. I had some like maladaptive daydreaming habits when I was growing up. They went away in college, but for lots of different reasons, I think. But daydreaming can be a great way to get through boring tasks, especially like housework and stuff that doesn't require you to be like focused on answering an email or something. Something else when it comes to role play, when I was in grad school, I would cosplay in my head as Leslie Knope. I would pretend I was Leslie Knope. I would go to the store and buy a bunch of waffles and I'd be like, I'm a productive, badass bitch. I am Leslie, and like that really worked for me. So highly recommend that. I help moms to connect with their kids through Minecraft. Oh, Momcraft, that's great. I actually have somebody, I'm going to send you to somebody because I think they would really, really get a lot out of that. That's awesome. Yeah, it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Yes, potato. Yes. It's not nothing. It's not. Your suffering is real and valid. It matters. Doesn't matter if you know the name for it or not. I mean, obviously knowing the name can be helpful, but even when you don't know the name, even when you're having doubts, your pain is real. And I think that's so helpful. Recently viewed your video about monotropic spiral. My whole perspective has changed in 48 hours. I need tips on how to calm down without adding more thoughts to analyze and goals to achieve. Okay, mama. Okay. So, monotropic spiral, there's a couple of things that helped me, I think. First, knowing what was going on. Knowing, okay, this is... because I didn't know the name monotropic spiral until recently, so that's not what helped necessarily. It was more like... accepting that I am an obsessive person and that the obsession is part of the problem, not a sign that I don't have a problem. Does that make sense? Like, that was really big for me, was realizing, okay, I am so obsessed with this. It's negatively impacting my life. The obsession is part of the problem. It's not a sign that I don't have a problem at all, right? The other thing that helped me was EFT tapping. That helped me tremendously, actually. So if you haven't heard of that, it's where you tap really specific spots, and as you tap, you talk yourself through difficult emotions. So I would tap and be like, I do not know what diagnosis I have, and it's driving me crazy, and it's so stupid. I'm so stupid. I probably have nothing, and nothing is wrong with me. And so I would just like, the way I tap is I do 3 steps: acknowledgement, validation, and reframe. So first, you just acknowledge what you're feeling. I feel crappy. I think I have everything because I'm stupid and I hate myself. Like whatever it is, you just be honest. Then step 2, as you start to tap and you keep moving, you move into validation. It makes sense that you're frustrated with yourself. It makes sense that you're angry. Everybody's expecting you to get better, but how are you supposed to get better if you don't even know what's going on? And all this stuff. Then you move into reframe, which is like a gentle shift, just like a little bit. And that's where I would say stuff like what I was saying before, whatever it is that I have, my suffering is real and I do need help, and it's okay to not be sure. I can seek help even if I don't know what the name for what's going on, even if I don't know what the name is. So that's kind of what I would do. EFT tapping was huge for me. So let's see. I love Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. Momcraft Connect is your channel name. My sister is neurotypical, but has 2 ND kids that both play those kinds of games. Yeah. Have you ever felt when doing a task, hours went by, but still unable to finish it? It's a strange feeling that after an hour, I come to realize. Yeah. Kumar, I have absolutely done that, where it's like hours can go by and I'm just not doing the thing. What am I doing? I don't even know. Did I call my sister? I went live on Instagram. I ate some lunch. Like I'm just piddling around, not doing anything. It's like, would you just do the thing and then we could be done? So I get it. I try not to talk to myself in that really negative tone. I try to be more like, okay, what about this project is so difficult? Like, what about it is making me want to procrastinate and avoid and avoid and avoid? And then I try to address that particular part. So like a big reason I don't do stuff sometimes is because I don't feel like recording. I don't want to turn my personality on. I just want to like let my personality sit inside me. I don't want to have to project. And so I'm like, okay, how can we shift that? How can we make it so you're able to project your personality? Or is there other work we can do, and we can do the projecting stuff later when you're feeling more into it, you know? So that's kind of what I do to help with that. I feel like I'm both, but my boyfriend does not believe me until I get diagnosed from the doctor. I want to learn how to stop sabotaging my relationships. Katie Cutie, something I will say, a lot of people think that you can only be diagnosed by a doctor. A lot of people hold that opinion, and that's a valid opinion. A lot of autistic folks and ADHD folks hold that opinion, and I'm not here to dismiss it entirely. I am here to question it. Why do we believe that medical school, while intensive and very helpful and teaches you a ton, makes someone an expert on who you are? A really great thing I saw online was like a doctor saying, don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree. And someone responding, don't confuse your medical degree with 20 years living inside my brain and body. You know, like, you know you. And I personally couldn't self-diagnose because I was too stuck in the monotropic spiral. I was too obsessive and I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't be sure by myself. I needed help. But some people know. Some people know they're autistic or ADHD or both. It's very obvious. It's very clear to them once they start learning about what it's actually like to be autistic and ADHD, rather than just learning about the stereotypes. And that is often sometimes a reason that people don't like self-diagnosis, because they're like, well, you just saw a couple TikToks. Cutie, I'm going to guess that you have done more than a couple of TikToks. You've probably watched YouTube. You've probably read some articles. You've probably taken some tests, right? You know. Or maybe you don't know. Maybe you're really confused and you do need professional help, and that's fine too. That was me, and that's fine. But I think you just need to have an open and honest conversation with your boyfriend about, like, hey, even if I'm not these things, I do notice these struggles. Could we start accommodating these? And I don't think it's sabotaging your relationship to expect accommodation and support. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, Yingbar, this is my channel name all together, and I just released my first video about ADHD last week. Neurodivergent, please ask a question. Yes, drop it in the chat. Absolutely. Megan, I would love to connect with anyone who's excited about what I do. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll check it out. Currently working on a free app to help with this kind of stuff too. Have you ever felt when doing a task? Oh, okay, yeah, I answered that. Let's see. The starting is the most difficult thing, even for things I love to do. Holy cow, yes. So let me tell you, I actually have a whole video series on how to get things done. Part 1 is how to start, part 2 is how to not get lost in the middle, and part 3 is how to actually finish what you started. All of which I need help with. But go watch the video on how to start stuff. But one thing I really recommend is literally like clenching all your muscles as tight as you can, and then shouting 1, 2, 3, go, and then you just like jump and you head in the direction of the thing you need to do. That has helped me. Sorry for shouting, by the way. I hope that wasn't too loud. That has helped me tremendously. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I do that on a pretty regular basis. I have ADHD officially diagnosed, but not ASD. One psychiatrist said I absolutely obsessional type. I try to formulate the question. Yeah, I see it. So it sounds like, it sounds a little bit like you have ADHD and you're wondering if you also show signs of autism. So I can't diagnose anything. I'm not a doctor or a therapist. Even if I was, I couldn't diagnose anything on a YouTube video. But, autism tends to come with very rigid thinking. It tends to come with hyper or hyposensitivity to sensory experiences. It tends to come with missing social cues and not always being aware that you're missing social cues, which can be hard because it's like, how do I know if I'm missing social cues if I don't know if I'm missing social cues? This is where talking to other people can come in handy. But yeah, let's see. What resources of media are you aware of for multiple diagnoses with ADHD mind? We are Plural, DID, and was diagnosed first 15 years ago, and our ADHD diagnosed about 9 months ago. Congratulations on being diagnosed. That's great. So, media are you aware of for multiple diagnoses? Okay, so if you are Plural, I really recommend, there's a couple of systems who I follow and like think provide really helpful information. I can't think of their names all of a sudden. Shoot. But yeah, hold on. Where's my phone? Where did I set my phone? It's somewhere. It's not there. Sometimes I'm talking on my phone. And so where the heck did I put my phone? Oh, there it is. I see it. It's under my book. All good. Okay. Hold on. I'm on it because I know of a couple of really cool system creators who I would absolutely recommend. Okay, the Plural Association is an account that I follow. Let's see. They're a nonprofit for DID and OSDD and all other forms of multiplicity under the Plurality umbrella. I really recommend them. They post pretty regularly, which is awesome. Like, they've posted several times this week already. So the Plural Association, let's see, messages. Yeah. So, and fun fact, the Plural Association, the person behind that account is going to be speaking at the Neurodivergent Lived Experience Summit, most likely in January. It's not till January, so there's still a chance something could change, but I've reached out and they're interested, so yay. Because I really do want the Neurodivergent Lived Experience Summit to be about neurodivergence, not just autism and ADHD. So I'm reaching out to all kinds of neurodivergent folks, including folks with DID. So anyway, I'm trying to think. She's not a system. She's not like Plural, but Schizo is really interesting. She talks about having schizoaffective disorder, and I've been really enjoying her content. I'm hoping to get her for the summit as well. We'll see. But yeah. Okay. I feel like sometimes it's people just trying to dismiss you because they don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Self-diagnosis is totally valid. There are so many difficulties to getting assessed. Yeah. Oh, sister, amen. 55 years with this alien brain and no diagnosis. I feel seen and it's so good. Heck yeah, mama. Okay. Your partner should respect you and support you. If you can't have an open talk with them, I always saw this as a red flag. Yeah. Like the 1, 2, 3 jump idea. 55 years and only recently diagnosed. Yes, I see. Okay. The biggest challenge with my ADHD is getting my husband to accept it and to realize that my boys are very likely all have it and possibly one of them with auDHD. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So I wish... I'm very grateful that I don't have advice for people with unsupportive partners because my partner is crazy supportive and always has been. I will say when I was first diagnosed with bipolar, he was upset and not sure because we weren't married at the time. We had only been dating like 2 or 3 years, and that's a long time, but we were really young. So like it's not like 2 or 3 years when you're in your 30s. Like that kind of dating is much more serious than we were 18, you know? So he was a little unsure about like what this relationship was going to look like, especially because it wasn't bipolar, but you know, my emotional dysregulation and my attachment trauma and stuff like that was really affecting our relationship. And I could, you know, it was just difficult. So I can say that acknowledging that what about your ADHD is difficult for them can help be an entry point into the discussion, but you don't want that to be the sole focus of the discussion because your ADHD is not about them. It's also about you, right? And so I mean, one of these times I'll have my husband come on for one of these lives, or I'll have him do a YouTube video with me because he's very neurotypical as far as we know. He's one of the most well-adjusted human beings I know. And I actually have a podcast episode with him if you're interested. If you go to the Neurocuriosity Club on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything like that, and just search Adam and it'll pop up. It's my husband's name is Adam. And, or maybe I didn't even name him in that. Search husband, maybe, and it should pop up. But yeah, it's helpful to learn from someone who is supportive how, like, what kind of support you need, I guess. And it could also be a helpful episode to show your husband, to be like, look, this is how this person supports his wife and all this stuff, and these are the supports she has that I would also like from you. Is that possible? And you guys can have that conversation. Hi, Autumn Leaves. I was trying to find a video that's ADHD versus autism versus ADHD. Yeah. I know I have ADHD, but I don't know if I have autism. Thank you. Yeah. So it can be tricky to tell. A lot of us have both, but a lot of us don't. And that's okay. Either way is fine. And I think it's important to explore. If you can afford assessment, that can be a really great way to like suss things out, but you have to find an assessor who knows what they're talking about, who's close to you and affordable. And that can be a big ask sometimes. And it's not the only way to know. Autumn Leaves, I really recommend going to embrace-autism.com. They have a lot of quizzes you can take and stuff like that. Highly recommend that. Or if you guys are interested, let me send you the link to my shop. I have got discovery binders. So they include links to free assessments. They include links to full studies. It includes a blank spreadsheet and a list of potential like example traits and symptoms that you could list to keep track of your personal traits. And then it also comes with journal prompts. So this is all digital. It's all in a Google Drive. You just make a copy and then you can start editing your version of it. So really recommend those. I have one for ADHD and one for autism. You can buy both for cheaper, I think. So it's $25 each or $40 together. So you save $10 when you buy them both. But that's only if you need both, obviously. So highly recommend those. Is monotropic thinking both ADHD and autism? I love this question. Yes. Yes, it is. ADHDers have some monotropic thinking. Autistic folks have a lot of monotropic thinking, and ADHDers have, out of those three categories, the most monotropic thinking. And there was a study done on this. I don't know where it is. I don't have it to cite for you right this second, but it was a thing that they studied. So yeah, yes, both of them experienced monotropism. I have a whole series on monotropism on my channel if you want to check it out. It's most of the most recent videos. Yeah. Can you reach out to people with OCD? I would love to. I think that's a really good idea. I would love to reach out to some folks who have OCD and bring them to the summit because I think that would be really beneficial for sure. So I will keep that in mind and I will try to reach out to some folks who experience that. We listened to Cody Green and he's great, so we'll check out the other creator too. Thanks. Yeah. I'm about to get ready for an ADHD diagnosis. Then we're going to see if I have autism too after I get the ADHD assessed. That's great. I think that's wonderful. I think getting them to understand that it's okay if they don't fully understand it yet, but that you hope they will still respect what you have to live with while they learn. That's a good one, Yingvar. Yeah. Yeah. I've been on the journey to be able to talk about how I'm feeling and how he is feeling. It's helped a lot, but it's still a work in progress. Yeah. Yeah, it is. And all relationships are. You guys are not fully healed individuals connecting with each other perfectly. All relationships come with rupture. The important part is the repair. Okay? As long as you do the repair work, it's all good. It's all good. Just watch the monotropic explanation that you posted. Very helpful. Yes. I want people with both ADHD and OCD because it's such a bad mix. Yeah, I can attempt to find folks who fit that description for sure. Yeah, I'll look for it. I'll keep my eyes out. And if you guys have any of your favorite OCD related creators, drop them in the chat. I'll be sure to try to reach out to them. We're aiming for people with like a medium-sized following because a lot of the people with the really big followings, they're not going to see my DM. So, I mean, granted, if you have someone with a huge following and you really want to see them, I've gotten big names before. Like Layla freaking Saad spoke last year. She wrote Me and White Supremacy, like one of the biggest books of 2020. Like, I could not believe she wanted to speak at the event. She might speak again. We'll see. I'm going to ask. So, anyway. Let's see. I asked earlier, but okay, sorry if I missed it. You talk about the difference between a meltdown and ADHD rage. Ooh, okay, yeah, I definitely missed that one. Let me go ahead and hide my current comment. There we go. Let's see. Okay. Meltdown versus ADHD rage. So, meltdown is really a lack of control. You feel that you are no longer in control of your body, of your emotions, of your thoughts. For me, ADHD rage is much more like, I've got a handle on it, but barely. And if I let go, I am just gonna, it's more ruminating, I guess. ADHD rage for me is much more like, and this can be especially true, oh my gosh, hold on. This can be especially true if you're also autistic, but sometimes I get stuck on my rage and it just keeps cycling because I'm having trouble transitioning away from it without a proper resolution, like what I want the resolution to be. So that could also be an autism thing, but I guess for me, when I'm experiencing ADHD rage, I'm not as familiar with that. I guess I always attribute my rage to my attachment issues and my trauma. I don't always attribute it to my ADHD, but I guess it could be related. I guess the times I have experienced ADHD rage, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was, is usually low frustration tolerance is really what it is. It's that I'm frustrated and I'm finding it really, really difficult to not be frustrated. And I feel stupid and ashamed. And again, it's kind of trauma based, right? So whereas, a meltdown, I don't feel in control at all. It's not because of being frustrated. It's like being frustrated can lead to a meltdown, so it's not really the cause that's different. It's more what happens after that's different. So let's say the same thing causes two different reactions, which is totally possible. Let's say I'm trying to make something on my website work and it's not working. It could lead to ADHD rage, which is just like this work. God damn it. Like, please just work. Just work. I don't understand. Why is everything so dumb? I'm so angry. Blah, blah, blah. A meltdown, which could be caused by the exact same thing, is I'm so stupid. What is wrong with me? This is so, like, I can't do anything. And like sometimes it can jump all the way to unaliving thoughts. You know, like it's to me, a meltdown is more intense. But I also am not as familiar with ADHD rage, so I don't want to like do the suffering Olympics thing and say which one's worse. It's not that. It's just that a meltdown is much more directed at me, whereas ADHD rage tends to be more directed out, I guess. That's my very fumbly answer. Sorry. Oh. also have some OCD symptoms along with ADHD, but wonder if they're trauma related. Yeah, and it could be trauma related. It could be autism related. It could be that you have some OCD traits without qualifying for the full disorder. That's how I am. I have a lot of obsessive tendencies, but because I'm not as compulsive, I don't really qualify for an OCD diagnosis. And a lot of my obsessive tendencies actually come from my autism. So that's kind of how I've eventually worked it out in my head. Also have OCD. Okay, you're very smart. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Kiara Reeves. Graves. Sorry, not Reeves. Squirrel Dad. Okay, has some funny shorts about ADHD. Nicole Rafi. Kiara Graves is ADHD and has OCD, and they'd be a great person to reach out to. Okay, sweet. Probably big, but ADHD love. Yeah, that's a big ask. I don't know. I don't know how to get their attention. That's the thing. Like if I can get their attention, a lot of people are willing to work with me and they want to be part of this, but it's hard to reach out to bigger accounts. Being blank most of the time, is ADHD behind it? I don't know. Being blank most of the time. I don't think so, just because ADHD is often associated with a lot of stuff going on all at the same time. It's not usually associated with that blank slate that's like kind of dissociative a little bit. I wonder if that's more of a trauma thing, but I'm not a trauma expert, so I don't know. Anyone have sleep issues? Yes, a lot of ADHDers have sleep issues. A lot of autistic folks have sleep issues. A lot of ADHDers have sleep issues. Yes, for sure. A lot of us deal with chronic fatigue or restless leg syndrome or narcolepsy or insomnia or sleep apnea. It is very highly correlated with ADHD, at least. I know that for sure, and I'm fairly certain at least chronic fatigue is associated with autism as well. So very common, Firefly. You would not be alone in that. I am a bit of an exception. I love sleep. I sleep all the time, but not necessarily in a chronic fatigue way anymore. I used to, but I was also pregnant with twins. I was just exhausted. So I sleep a lot, but not in the like sleep isn't restful, is need more kind of way. I just sleep a lot because I like to sleep. So yeah. Let's see. Yes, and because of my OCD med too, yeah. Very enlightening about meltdowns and rage. When I go into a rage, it is a mini explosion, is related to frustration. Some days I can help it, and some days I am highly susceptible. Yeah. Could potentially be a meltdown. It just depends. Again, some autistic folks' meltdowns are outward focused. That's more of a classic external meltdown. For me, I have mostly internal meltdowns just because of like, I don't know, for lots of reasons that I'm not going to dive into right now. Let's see. Oh, yes. Yeah, and my low iron. Yeah, that can be a big thing. I'm going for another sleep study. That's good. Figure it out. Get your answers. You deserve them. Question. I'm working on a free app to help people with executive dysfunction. Still a ways out, but if it turns out good, is that something I could send you to see if you'd want to share it with others? Oh, heck yes. Yeah, absolutely. Send it my way when you've got it done, or if it's in beta and you want someone to test it. Absolutely. Because if it works, if I find it helpful, I will totally share it with my people for sure. Yeah, that's great. Thought just popped in my head. Mind wanting to make free tools to help people without family or friend support. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think that's a really great idea, and I would love to be part of it. So yes, keep me in mind. My DMs on Instagram are open, so that's usually a good way to get my attention. I know with bigger accounts, it's like, how do I contact them? Contact me through Instagram DMs is usually a good way. I don't check my requests all the time, so it might take me a couple days, but I try to check my requests like once or twice a week, so I should get back to you. But yeah. Oh my goodness, it's 2:08 already? Okay, folks, I have other stuff I have to do today, so I am going to go, but this was really lovely. I hope that this was really helpful. Are there any last minute questions? I'll leave it open for just another minute or two. We'll do some rapid fire questions, and I'll answer as quick as I can. Let's see, Yingbar, I'm interested in learning more about your app too. Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Any last minute questions? Questions, and I'll see if I can answer them rapid fire style. Otherwise, we can just skedaddle. If everybody's done, if we're ready to go, that's totally fine. We've been on here for a hot minute, so it's all good. Yeah, of course, Heather, no problem. Thank you for being here. Anyone else under tornado watch? Oh, goodness. Any WhatsApp community link? No, but I do have a Discord server. It is a pay what you can monthly membership starting at $3 a month. I will go ahead and drop that link for you. That's a great question. There we go. Thank you for this. Very helpful. I'll keep you updated. Just discovered you. Your content is super helpful. Yay, Kate. I'm so excited. I'm glad. This was awesome. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Embrace Autism is great. There's the Clubhouse link. That is my pay what you can monthly membership. It comes with a Discord. Several body doubling sessions a week, monthly group coaching, monthly book club, monthly guest experts. Like there's literally so much stuff in there. It's worth probably closer to $97 a month, but you can get in for as little as $3. I just wanted to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. So highly recommend checking that out. Doors are always open, at least right now. So go check that out. My ADHD rage causes me to throw things, especially when it's something I'm trying to fix or solve. Yeah, been there. Have a fun day, everyone. Remember to let yourself have scheduled board time. Yep, love it. Thank you for the Discord link. Of course, yeah, can't wait to see you there. Weather getting crazy here north of NYC. Yeah, ooh, good luck. Stay safe. Okay, well, I'm going to skedaddle. Thank you all for hanging out and asking such wonderful questions. I hope I will see you over in the Discord. And everybody get ready to buy the ADHD magazine and come to the slumber party because it's going to be so fun. So I'm very excited. Should be out on Monday. I'll post about it on the YouTube community, but also make sure you're following me over on Instagram. It's at the Neurocuriosity Club. That's where I post a lot of stuff. So for some reason, my carousels are like not getting seen by anybody, but my reels and my stories still are. So that's good at least. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Bye, everyone.